I'm a bit in a complicated situation with my mom, 58F, over her new boyfriend Jeremy, 35M. However, for you to fully understand the picture, I have to take you back a bit. I was brought up in a closely knit family. My parents, high school sweethearts, got married shortly after high school and gave birth to me a few years later. Dad was a high school history teacher, and Mom ran a small bookstore in our town. We were not so wealthy, but we were happy. Every summer, we'd pack up our old station wagon and drive all around the country. Dad would introduce us to the history behind the sights we were seeing, and Mom would read from the books she brought with her. I think this is one of the memories of my own childhood. In my older years, I could actually see the increase in my parents' love for each other with each passing year. Yes, they would fight, but they would work it out together. They are a team, for better or for worse. They started dancing together after I left for university, and used to send me some videos how they danced, so sweet and an inspiration for their relationship. It was 5 years ago that our world was turned upside down when Dad was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. It was aggressive, and 6 months later he was gone. Mom was there for him to the end. She practically lived at the hospital, only coming home when I finally forced her to get some rest. She would sit for hours reading to him from his favorite books. Mom was devastated, and after Dad died, she stopped working. The bookstore was closed temporarily because she said she couldn't bear to be surrounded by stories when it felt like hers was over. I moved back in with her, putting my career on hold to be there for her. For months, we existed, trying to find a way in this world that doesn't seem to have Dad anymore. Slowly, one by one, we started healing. We reopened the bookstore together, and pieces of the old mother slowly came back. We managed to keep some family traditions, our annual beach trip for her birthday. Every time we visited, we'd sit out on a mat and talk about Dad and the numerous trips he took us on. Bittersweet memories always have a way of keeping us close to them. It was a year after Dad's death that basically Mom got interested in life again. She joined a grief support group, made some new friends, and started dating again, nothing very serious. I was glad for her, even though it was in some ways a little off-putting. But Dad would have wanted her to be happy. I knew that. It was 8 months ago, at a fundraiser for the local library, that Mom met Jeremy. He had just moved into our hometown to take over his family's real estate business. He was suave and very attentive to Mother, and she fell in love from the very first evening. I was cautiously optimistic. Jeremy seemed nice enough, and it was good to see Mom smiling again. Things happened fast after that. Within 2 months, Jeremy moved into our family home. I was quite surprised at how quick everything unraveled, although I was trying to be as supportive as possible. I then decided that Mom seemed to be stable and happy, so that was all that really mattered, right? But soon I had begun to notice the changes. Small things at first. Jeremy had said he'd like to rearrange the living room and that it would open up the space. Mom agreed, though she and Dad had picked each piece and its placing when they first brought it all home. And then Jeremy said something about Dad's stuff, how the house just seemed so messy and maybe they should declutter it. Mom agreed, and soon after, there were boxes and boxes of Dad's stuff that had to be carried up into the attic. The real bombshell came one day when I came home to find that someone had repainted the living room in a rather shocking, absolutely white. Gone was the warm, rustic orange Dad had so tenderly applied. Gone was a beautiful mural Dad had painted for Mom's 25th anniversary. When I asked her about it, she could only shrug her shoulders and say, "Jeremy thinks this looks more modern." I did try to speak with Mom in private about how things were moving so fast, but she wouldn't listen. "Jeremy just wants what's best for us," she'd say. "He's helping me move forward." Things went south when Jeremy started interfering with our family traditions. I was about to plan our annual trip to the beach when Mom's birthday was approaching, but Jeremy said that he'd already booked a couple's retreat for them instead. When I mentioned this to Mom and told her it was our tradition, she responded, "Maybe it's time for new traditions." I felt as though I'd been sucker punched. I did try to speak to Jeremy in private about how his actions had been affecting me. I told him how important some of the things he was moving around were, there were memories attached to them. He just brushed me off with, "Your mom's happy now. Isn't that what matters?" I felt like he was insinuating that Mom wasn't happy before, which was painful. It was when I came home to find Jeremy in Dad's old office last week that really did it. That room had been left untouched since Dad's death. It was filled with his books, his old vinyl collection, and mementos from our family trips. Jeremy was tossing things into boxes, muttering about how it was time to clear out this junk. I lost it. I screamed at him to stop, that they weren't things, but precious memories. Jeremy yelled back that I needed to grow up and move on, that holding on to the past wasn't healthy for anyone, especially Mom. Mom came in on our argument. I expected her to protect me, or, at least, to understand why I was upset. Instead, she went with Jeremy. She said maybe it was time to put what's gone, that Dad wouldn't want us to live in a mausoleum to his memory. I left the house in tears, feeling like I lost not just my dad but my mom too. After that, I have been at Sarah's. She is really my best friend. Mom has rung me, but every time she just asks me when I am coming home to apologize to Jeremy. She doesn't seem to understand why I'm upset. I feel torn. On one hand, it's my wish that Mom is happy and she's moving ahead with her life. On the other hand, it feels as though she is erasing Dad and pushing me aside. It is as though Jeremy is infiltrating every portion of her life, and she is letting it happen. Am I overreacting and should I just get along with these issues, all part of Mom's new life? Or should I take a stand on this and possibly further damage my relationship with Mom? I long for how close we used to be, but I don't really know how to get it back without setting aside my own feelings and memories of Dad. Update 1. It has been 2 weeks since I last posted, and much has happened. I'd like to thank everybody who gave me their advice and support. Those words really helped give things perspective in this matter. I decided to face Mom alone and, after staying for a few days at Sarah's, we agreed to meet in the little cafe that Dad used to take us to have Sunday brunch. It somehow felt appropriate to have this conversation in a place that held so many happy memories for us. I was really taken by the fact that Mom looked so different when she came. Her hair was done in a style I'd never seen, and she donned clothes that seemed much more suitable for someone Jeremy's age than hers. It felt almost as though some alien were wearing my mom's face. We ordered the usual, her favorite chai latte and my black coffee, and for a moment, it felt like old times. But the minute we began to talk, the illusion shattered. I told her how badly it made me feel, what she had done, and how Jeremy was acting. I told her that it felt like they were erasing Dad's memory, and how much it hurt me. I reminded her about all the great things we had done as a family and that she was ready to throw all of that away for Jeremy. To my great surprise, Mom actually listened. I mean, really listened, like she hadn't listened in months. As I continued to talk, I could see tears forming in her eyes. When I was finally done, she burst out crying. She confessed that she had been so swept up in her new relationship that she hadn't thought about how it was impacting me. She said she was sorry she hadn't taken my side in the argument with Jeremy and that things had gone on this way. And then she started defending Jeremy. She said that he was only trying to help her move on, that he thought it was the past holding her that was responsible for her staying behind. She told me how lonely she had been, after Dad died, how Jeremy made her feel alive again. She said she loved him, she wanted him around. I told her I could understand that she wanted to move on, but that sure as hell did not mean erasing the past. I had meaning, in my attempts, to tell her that Dad was so huge a part of me, and moving on does not need to imply forgetting him. We talked about finding a middle way of keeping Dad alive in our memories while giving room for new happiness. After a really long, emotional conversation, we agreed to have a family meeting with Jeremy. Mom would talk with him first, explaining just how serious this was, then we would all sit down together. The meeting happened a few days later. It was tense at first. Jeremy seemed defensive, and I had to work hard not to lose my emotions. But as he began to speak to me, something happened. Jeremy agreed that he'd been overboard in his efforts to have Mom move on. He felt like Dad's memory had intimidated him, as if he were in some kind of competition with a ghost. To be honest, I was stunned at how open he was. It enabled me to place myself in his shoes momentarily. We managed to have a rather civilized dialogue, and towards the end, we made the following agreements. Jeremy would start consulting Mom and me before he goes ahead with any big changes to the house. We would set one room in the house as a memorial place with all that was Dad's and which would not be tinkered with. My mom and I could be at the beach every year to celebrate our birthdays, and Jeremy promised never to interrupt that. We were to have our family dinner every week to reconcile and discuss our issues before they escalate to monstrous things. Things were looking up. For about a week, everyone was keeping to their part of the deal. Jeremy seemed to respect Dad's memory more, and Mom tried to spend time alone with me. We even had a movie night where we watched Dad's favorite film. Jeremy joined us, asking questions about Dad and genuinely seeming interested. But yesterday, I received this call from Mom. She sounded pretty excited with the news and insisted on having lunch with me. She was waiting for me at our favorite diner, and she could hardly keep herself in. She extended her hand to show off her shiny engagement ring. Jeremy had proposed, and they were getting married in 2 months. I was so shocked. It felt like all the progress we'd made was being rubbed out. When I asked why all the hurry, Mom said life was short and they did not want to waste time. She talked about how Dad's death had taught her to seize happiness when she found it. She wants me to be her maid of honor. I didn't know how to respond. Somehow, part of me was desperately pleased that Mom might be excited, while a more rational part was terrified this might mean I lose her all over again in a different way. I choked out a half-hearted congratulations, but I could see that my hesitation didn't go by her. But we ate lunch, and she went on and on about her plans for the wedding. It was going to be grand, compared to the little, intimate one she and the dad had. She spoke of designer dresses, fancy venues, and hundreds of guests, most of whom I'd never even met. I found myself thinking about Dad again, wondering what he would have made of all this. Would he be pleased that Mom had found somebody else, be hurt that she had moved on so quickly? Mom was so excitable that by the end of lunch my head was spinning. She did not catch the mixed emotions on my tangled face. She hugged me tight, beaming, "I'm just so happy you'll stand beside me on my big day." Now I'm torn. On the other hand, I want Mom to be happy. I knew Dad wouldn't have wanted her to be alone forever. But on the other hand, it feels way too soon, and I am worried that Jeremy will use this as an excuse to push me out again. I'm also worried about what this will mean for Dad's memory. Does he have any place in the new life Mom is leading? What about me? Where do I fit in the new family dynamic? I wouldn't know how to feel or what to do. Should I just take up the Maid of Honor role to support Mom unconditionally, or should I say something to disagree with how fast this is happening? I was afraid that if I said something, it would only cause more arguments and push Mom even further away from us. I used to miss those days when it was easy to make decisions and there was our complete family. Wish Dad is here to advise me on something. He always seems to say the right words for everything to be all right. Now I am lonely and lost just standing by and watching my family turn into something so unlike anything I have ever known. Update 2. It's been 1 month since my last update, and I am sad to say things have taken a turn for the worse. Well, I did agree to be Mom's maid of honor against my better judgment. I guess I thought it would be one sure way to kind of keep involved and make sure that I wasn't going to be pushed completely out of her life. I guess I wanted to be there for her, help make her day special, even though I had mixed feelings about it all. The wedding planning got underway quickly, and from the start, it seemed to be all Jeremy. He hired a top-notch wedding planner without consulting Mom, and he picked out a very extravagant venue that Mom once said was too showy, and he even picked out Mom's dress. All this couldn't be more different from the simple, sincere ceremony that Mom and Dad had. I attempted to be involved, adding some personal touches that would render the wedding a little more Mom. I had even pitched the idea of centerpieces inspired by the covers of Mom's favorite books. In homage to many a mom's love of literature in the bookstore, Jeremy nixed it, declaring it was too quaint for the elegant affair he had in store. Well, when I began to suggest some things that would serve as a nod to Dad, that is, like having a picture of him at the ceremony or even just including his favorite flowers in some of the arrangements, Jeremy jumped on those as though they were horrible. He said it would be inappropriate and might make the guests uncomfortable. When I mentioned that most of the guests had known and loved Dad, Jeremy just shrugged and said, "This day is about looking to the future, not dwelling on the past." I tried to talk to Mom about it, but she just kept saying, "Jeremy knows best and we need to focus on the future, not the past." It was like I was reliving losing her all over again. The Mom I knew would have wanted Dad to be part of this day, would have wanted it to reflect her life and loves. This was a stranger's wedding. Problems finally emerged last week during a dress fitting. Jeremy had insisted on being there, which I thought was strange. While Mom was trying on her dress, Jeremy was making several comments about her weight and how she should begin toning up before the wedding. I was mortified, but Mom just laughed it off. I couldn't hold it in any longer. I told Jeremy right there that he was being unreasonable, that this obsession with controlling every part of Mom's life needed to stop. I reminded him of the terms that were laid down, that we all decide together, and how he'd started steamrolling over everybody else, including Mom. Jeremy lost his patience. He snapped and told me that I was just envious since I couldn't find a man of my own. He accused me of trying to sabotage their happiness because I couldn't move on from Dad's death. His words hit me like a physical blow. I just wished my mom would take up for me, remind Jeremy about our agreements, assert herself. But instead, she told me that I was overreacting and was ruining her special day. She said that things were different now, that she was different. I cried as if I'd lost her all over again. That night, Jeremy calls. His voice is really distant. "Well, maybe you should just step down as my maid of honor after all, because if you can't be supportive, I don't need any negative energy around during the wedding." And finally, when I mustered the courage to call Mom and try to talk to her about it, hoping she'd maybe call Jeremy's bluff, I found that she sided with him. Maybe it would be less stressful for everyone if I just came as a guest. Matter of fact, she said if I couldn't get on board with their new life, then maybe I shouldn't even come to the wedding. It just feels like my family is gradually being taken away from me. My father's memory is being erased, and Mom is turning into something else. I don't recognize her anymore. The warm, kind woman who taught me everything about family and memories, raised me, seems to have disappeared. So now I have a very tough decision upon me. Do I swallow my pride and act out of character by cheerfully attending a wedding in which I was hoping to be the bride, or do I stand my ground knowing full well that will mean I won't participate in something that just doesn't feel right? Part of me wants to fight for Mom, to try and make her see what's happening. But the other part is just tired of fighting, tired of being the only one who seems to have time for our family and Dad's memory. I catch myself as I look through old family pictures and think back to the mom who would sit with me for hours doing school projects, who would surprise Dad with his favorite meals for no reason, who cared for our family's traditions. I miss her. I miss everything about our family. And I just don't know how to get it back. It's been 2 weeks now after the wedding, and I've made some real tough decisions. After really doing lots of soul-searching and many sleepless nights, I felt that I had to stand up for myself and make a decision not to attend the wedding. That was truly one of the hardest decisions I ever made. I sat down the day before the wedding and wrote a long email to Mom. My hands were shaking, tears blurring my vision as I typed. I explained why I couldn't come, pouring out all the hurt and frustration I'd been feeling. I told her how much her choices hurt me, how I felt Jeremy was cutting her off from us. Update 3, I reminded her of the strong, independent woman that she was, teaching me to stand up for myself and my beliefs. I explained the hurt of watching her change, of feeling like I was losing not just Dad but her as well. I wrote about our family memories and traditions we had shared, considering them to be erased in the process. I told her I loved her, and that I always would, no matter what. That if she ever needed me, I would be there, my door always open. I closed by saying I hoped she found real happiness, but that I could never feign support for what seemed so wrong to me. After I hit send, I turned my phone off. I could not stand the possibility of her calling and trying to talk me out of it. Worse, telling me not to bother coming back at all. I spent the actual wedding day with Sarah. She tried to keep my mind occupied. We stayed in old movies, baked cookies, ruining one pan, a batch, and there was nothing more in the world spoken on the day about the wedding. Curiosity consumed me, so that night, I resorted to seeking validation on social media. There, in abundance, were photos from the wedding. Mom had opened up her radiant blue eyes in each one. Mom looked really beautiful in her dress, and still somehow like a stranger. Her smile seemed tight, not quite reaching her eyes like it used to when she smiled at Dad. Jeremy was by her side in every photo, his arm around her possessively. I did not see any sign of Mom's old friends in any of the pictures. She only called a week after the wedding. I ignored the call and let it go to voicemail, still wasn't quite in the mood yet to talk. In the beginning of the message, her tone was angry. She said that I had ruined her special day, selfish, childish. But as she had gone on, her voice changed, the anger blended with the sound of sadness. Her voice had changed to crying by the time the message ended, asking me to return her call. It took me 2 days to work up the courage to call back. The minute I dialed, Mom picked up on the first ring. We talked for hours, really talked, for the first time in months. At first, it was awkward and tense. But as we kept talking, it felt like walls were coming down. Mom told me that she even felt suffocated at the wedding. She said she looked around for me but in vain because I never miraculously appeared at the last second. All along, she wished things could go back to how they used to be, and the fact that we had grown so far from each other hit her. She told me that things with Jeremy were moving really fast and sometimes she felt she was losing herself in his world. We talked about Dad, how much we missed him. Mom cried as she was saying to me how guilty she felt being here, being so happy with Jeremy, as though she was betraying the memory of Dad. I mean, I tried to assure her that Dad would have wanted her to be happy, but that didn't mean forgetting him or changing everything about her life. As we were wrapping up the conversation, we both had tears running down our faces. Mom asked if by chance there is a way to see each other, to talk more, to hopefully begin to heal. We already have a lunch date on the books next week for Mom and I. It's all ours. Jeremy will not be included, it's specifically for Mom and me to reconnect. The future for my relationship with Mom or the future for that matter with Jeremy, I don't know. I'm hurt and kind of still fishing for things. But I feel like maybe, just maybe, we've taken a small step in the right direction. Mom seems to be remembering who she was before Jeremy, and I'm tentatively hopeful about rebuilding our relationship, even if it looks a lot different from before. I know it won't be easy. 2 decades of hurt on both sides, many things unaddressed, and I am not sure how Jeremy will fit into all this, or whether Mom will be able to stand up to him and claim some of her independence back. So for the moment, I focus on rebuilding my relationship with Mom, on finding a way to honor Dad's memory while at the same time allowing Mom to properly move forward. Thank you, again to everyone who has followed this journey and those who have given advice. The support has meant the world to me in a tough time. I will update again after my lunch with Mom, hopefully with some good news.